We're live. It looks like the music stopped again. Why does it do that? Man, sometimes this OBS software is not reliable. Also, I'm way too bright. Whoops. Alrighty. It doesn't say there's music, but I hear music. Monitor. Monitor only. So I don't hear it, which means it's not coming through. Ugh, let's restart VLC player. Killing me. Why isn't it working? Come on, guys. Well, that's annoying. Huh. Properties, display capture, application, display. Oh, there it is. Ugh. It's like I have to reset it. Freaking. Okay. It's a lovely cloudy day here in Amsterdam. The mosquitoes are out in abundance. I'm getting eaten alive. And it's a great day to learn some Nuxt. Let's get the chat. Someday, someone will show up in the chat. Come on. Pop out. Put on the other screen. Then my cat jumps up here. Perfect timing, kitty. She's like, why are you talking to yourself? You can lay up here as long as you don't push things off. There you go. Alrighty then. So it's 12:23. I'll probably stream for an hour or so. I have this funny mic setup. I think I showed it in the last video, but I have this like Rode mic that's supposed to go on top of a camera connected to my Go. You probably couldn't even hear me say that because I pointed it away from me. All right, let's get into coding. Okay, key concepts. I should probably learn key concepts. Nuxt auto imports components. We read that yesterday. Thanks to its opinionated directory structure, Nuxt can auto import your components, composables, and utils. I need to know what composables are. Use the composable directory to auto import your Vue composables. Okay, Vue, what is a composable? What is a composable? In the context of a Vue application, a composable is a function that leverages Vue's composition API to encapsulate and reuse stateful logic. Okay. It's like encapsulated shared state logic, I think. That's what I'm understanding. When building front-end applications, we need to reuse logic for common tasks. For example, we may need to format dates in many places. So we extract a reusable function for that. Yes, that makes sense. There are many libraries out there for... Wait, this formatter function encapsulates stateless logic. It takes some input and immediately returns expected output. Right. There are many libraries out there for using stateless logic, for example, Lodash and date functions. Yes. By contrast, stateful logic involves managing state that changes over time. A simple example would be tracking the current position of a mouse on a page. Real-world scenarios can also be more complex logic, such as touch gestures or connection status to a database. Mouse tracker example. If we were to implement the mouse tracking functionality using the composition API directly inside a component, it would look like this. Yeah. So we're referencing X and Y, and we're saying update X and Y on mouse move. And then, yeah, after mounted, and then unregistering when unmounted. That makes sense. But if we want to reuse the same logic in multiple components, we can extract the logic into external file. Okay, let's do that. It's a composable function. Okay, so on mouse move, yep. We're using state APIs with the ref. Same as unmounted and unmounted. So it's kind of like hooks. By convention, the composable function starts with use, just like React hooks. Yes. Okay, I get it. That's cool. As you can see, the core logic remains identical. All we had to do was move it into an external function and return the state that could be exposed, just like inside a component. You can use the full range of composition API functions, and composables, the same use mouse functionality, can be used in any component. The cooler part about composables, though, it's like you can also nest them. Ew. So unlike React, you can nest your hooks. Nice. Yeah, so you want to abstract away creating an event listener that mounts and unmounts. Yep, that makes sense, man. I dig. So, async state example. The use mouse composable doesn't take any arguments. So let's take a look at another example that makes use of one. When doing async data fetching, we have to need to handle different states, loading, success, error. Okay. Be tedious to have to repeat this pattern everywhere. Right. It's like a common pattern with like, what's that library in React? Use, oh my God, by Tanner. What is, I'm just totally spacing on it. Use query, that's what I was thinking. So they're just extracting data in error. But we need a loading. Oh, it's I mean, man, this is really difficult to get used to, but I guess it works. If else, if else. Sure. So now we say use fetch. Okay. Is there a fetching library? I mean, I'm getting ahead of myself. But is there a fetching library that caches the same way useQuery does? Or does this Nuxt just cache for you? Caching. Composables, use request URL. Helper function that returns a URL object working both server-side and client-side. When utilizing hybrid rendering, oh God, here's another thing I need to learn. Hybrid rendering allows different caching rules per route. Decides how the server should respond to new requests given URL. So, I have to sneeze. Yeah, nice. Previously, every route, page of Nuxt application and server must use the same rendering mode. Universal or client side. In various cases, some pages could be generated at build time while others should be client-side rendered. For example, think of a content website with an admin section. Every content page should be primarily static and generated once. But the admin section requires registration and behaves more like a dynamic application. Okay, next includes route rules and hybrid rendering support. Using route rules, you can define rules for a group of Nuxt routes, change rendering mode, or assign a cache strategy based on a route. Okay. Nuxt server will automatically register corresponding middleware and wrap routes with cache handlers using Nitro Cache Layer. I think we're getting closer to my question about caching. But these are routes. These aren't fetches. Caching, data fetching, caching, there we go. This is more like it. Use fetch and use async data. Use keys to prevent refetching the same data. Use fetch uses a provided URL as key. Alternatively, a key can be provided in the options object. Ah, see, so it's just built in. Okay, so it's similar to use query, but it's, yeah, it's built in. Use async data uses the first argument as a key if it is a string. The first argument of a handler, if the first argument is the handler function that performs the query, then a key that is unique to the file name and a line number of the instance use async data will be generated for you. I didn't understand any of that. If the first argument is the handler function that performs the query, then a key that is unique to the file name and line number of an instance will be generated for you. What? Okay, so this is the key, mountains. Oh, okay, so it's use async data provides access to data that resolves asynchronously in an SSR-friendly composable. Okay. Use async data is composable meant to be called directly in the Nuxt context. Oh my god, we're going down a rabbit hole. Meta composables and utilities, both built in and user made, may require access to Nuxt instance. This doesn't exist everywhere because a fresh instance is created on every request. Currently, Nuxt context is only accessible in plugins, Nuxt hooks, Nuxt middleware, and setup functions. Oh my god, I don't get it. Composition setup hook. Setup hook serves an entry point for composition API. Okay, yeah, this is what I learned a couple days ago. Setup inside the script. Okay, so that's a setup function. If composable is called without access to the context, you may get an error stating that a composable that requires access to Nuxt instance was called outside of plugin, hook, middleware, or setup. In that case, you can also explicitly call functions within this context by using Nuxt app run with context. Oh my god, I'm getting way too deep and I don't understand any of this. Use async data provides access to data that resolves asynchronously in an SSR-friendly composable. Okay, well, let's play around with this. What is that? There's like a JSON, free JSON API. Yeah, something like this. Yeah, let's just go fetch something. Oh look, this is where we were yesterday. Creating to-dos. Let's get rid of all this. I should just try to do that again. All right. Thanks, prettier. So what do we want to do? We want to fetch some data and show it. How about we do that? With use async data. Let's just copy this. Gotta love copy paste. And then we're going to put, oh, what's the $sign fetch about? Oh, man. Why is there always something? This is a NitroPack thing. Okay, well, let's get our JSON data. And do something with it. So I learned that there's, what, VIF? Is that what it is? I did not learn. What is VIF? Haha. So VIF error. VIF error. Then we put error here. Come on. Div v if what? Status? We have to match against status. Status equals something. And there's no autocomplete for us. To give us an example. Status idle pending success error. Well, I'm going to assume data, if data. We're going to put some data in here. Data. Et voila. Okay. Wow, that's a lot of stuff. Is it actually making a fetch or is it caching it? It's not that. Come on, I hate you. This is just a dev configuration. So I assume, do I assume that's happening on the server side? Huh. Oh yeah, I'm building a community. I need to record the video for that today, and then, oh, my battery's about to die. That's cool. Put another battery in. That's what sucks about this camera, is it can't be plugged in and turned on at the same time. Hi, cat. Batteries. which battery is charged? 1. Okay. Which is this one. BRB. And we're back. Look at that. Like I never left. Okay, let's see. Oh, I got some cool air. That was nice. So useFetch provides a convenient wrapper around use async data. Automatically generates a key based on URL. Provides type hints for request URL based on server routes. Infers API response type. So there's a pick. So options. Pick, only pick specified keys in this array from the handler function result. Pick title. Okay. Let's just see what happens. Oh, I see. We're providing our own fetcher function. But with useFetch, shit. Yeah, does the same thing. But can I do, say I only want title. Oh my God, it works. Pick nothing. Pick but it's making a call every time. Well, it's probably because I'm changing the pick. Pick ID. Why are you mad, bro? Did I screw something up? Oh, yeah, pick. Okay, so if I say clear this, refresh. Okay, it's not making the request again. That's good. So it makes the request when you change the pick. Cool, but it gets cached. So, okay. Why is it mad? Why are you mad, bro? Title exists. Probably just doesn't know title exists, right? Do I need to give it to this user? Can we go to this, please? Yes, response T, I'm guessing is response type. So we happen to know that response T, actually I forgot, what is it, ID? Oops. Hello. Oh my god. It's because I put const. There we go. Okay. So user ID. We have ID, title. Dang it. String. Come on. Give me a body. Also string. We probably give it to it here. Then pick, oops, then pick. Well, no. Yay. Yep. Okay, cool. Love it. Wait, I can translate that from Latin? Nice. We do not drive out an exception to the choice of blaming. What does it mean? Cool. Well, I was excited for a minute. That's strange. Conventions and best practices. It is a convention to name composable functions with camel case. Yes. Input arguments. Composable can accept ref or getter argument, even if it doesn't rely on them for activity. If you're writing a composable, it may be used by other developers, it's a good idea to handle the case of an input argument being refs or getters instead of raw values. The two-value utility come in handy for this purpose. Interesting. Side effects. It is okay to perform side effects in composables, but may pay attention to the following rules. But, okay. Ba-da-da-da-da-da. If you're working on an application that uses server-side rendering, make sure to perform DOM-specific side effects on post-mounting lifecycle hooks. Post-mount, use mounted. These hooks are only called in the DOM, so you can be sure that code inside them has access to the DOM. Remember to clean up side effects on unmounted, yep. That makes sense. Composables should only be called in script setup or setup hook. Should also be called synchronously in these contexts. In some cases, you can also call them in lifecycle hooks. Extracting composables for code organization. Composables can be extracted not only for reuse, but also for code organization. As the complexity of your components grow, you may end up with components that are too large to navigate and reason about, of course. Using composables in options API. Okay, what is that? Why are there so many things? Man, much like React, this has its own universe of understanding. What is the benefit, though? Why are people choosing this over React? What is it? Are the bundle sizes smaller? Should go to YouTube. Why are people choosing Vue over React? Four years ago. That's a long time ago. I've seen this guy. Let me turn off the music, see what he has to say about it. Right. That's why Vue's magic has been bothering me, because it's a framework. So there's a lot of things happening under the hood, which I'm just not privy to. I've not been exposed to. Where React, it's just JavaScript. It's a library, JavaScript library. That's changed. The newer React documentation is great. Yeah. Now that I'm in Europe, there's like so much more Vue. It's weird. Wow, that's very low. I mean, more than twice that.
Other library. Here's another added bonus I should mention is that when you learn React, for example, first, or you learn Vue first, you will find it much easier. It will be much easier for you to learn the second library because although they're different libraries, there's some similarities there. So learning the first will be harder than learning the second, no matter which one you use. There's other advantages, I think, with React perhaps. There's React Native, which apparently is superior to the Vue options with regards to creating native mobile implementations. Both of them can do PWA, progressive web apps. If you talk to React people, they're going to tell you how it's amazing, everything else sucks. And you talk to Vue people, you might get the same response. Although the more advanced developers will tell you what I'm telling you now is that depends on the job, depends on the circumstances, and there's also this personal taste as well. Some people like Audi, some people like BMW, some people prefer Porsche. Depends, they're all interesting cars in their own right. Some, each with their pros and cons. Which one you choose depends on your personal choice. So, for example, I live in Montreal. Our roads are terrible. Personally, I wouldn't get a 911, although I think it's a beautiful car. I think it's probably the best sports car ever made. It's also a little small for me. I'm 6'2". I find it's a little cramped for me, but I think it's the best sports car. But on roads here, you're much better off with an SUV because the roads are cramped.
Oh man, was my mic off that whole time?
And I run the Uncle Steph Bootcamp and mentoring program where I teach people not only the fundamentals of.
That would be hilarious. Let's go look. Oh man, is my mic off that way? Nope, it's on. That may be used by other developers. Good idea to handle the case. The input argument being perhaps. It does seem like the music was off. Whoops. Ooh, I like this word. I shouldn't be in love with that, but it's only 82 stars. Peanut's probably more, huh? Yeah. Well, let's see if we can hear the music now. Yes, I can hear it. Yes. Man, learn something new every day. Let's see if I should finish that video I was watching, huh? No, not my video. This video.
Hey guys, how you doing? So, React developer and tech entrepreneur to you guys, so you don't have to spend 15, 20 years figuring this stuff out. You get it from me in a short period of time. Thanks for watching.
Being a Vue developer means you have a quiet and peaceful life. Ooh, spicy take. Though, I mean, I will say I really liked all the energy at the VueConf that I went to in February. It was a very positive experience, I feel like. So, does that mean there are Vue component libraries to make stuff look nice without having to do a bunch of CSS? Oh yeah, I looked this up the other day. I mean, they're not that nice looking. Shed CN for Vue. Somebody's got to be working on that. Oh look, I came here too. 3,000. Yeah. 2 weeks, 2 days, 2 days. Yeah, people are working on it. What's with this fade in, fade out of the changing? Color mode. Adding dark mode. That's not what I want. I don't want adding dark mode. I mean, I'm sort of understanding this. What I don't know anything about yet is testing. Did it come with a test? No. Let's do this. Test. Testing. My test. Okay, so there is a testing library for Vue. Render suspended. Okay. Vue testing library example. Render component. Get by text. Fire event. Okay, it's like exactly the same. Did I really make it through all of my music again? Even though you couldn't hear it. No, play a new one. I just heard this song. Find examples of testing with different libraries in the test directory. It's included Vue. I don't even know what Vue is. What the fuck is Vue? What is Vue? Pina is now the new default. Okay, so this used to be a testing library, or not, a state management library. Okay, neat. Okay, what other hooks? Composables. They don't call them hooks, they call them composables. Sure, use head. Use head customizes head properties of individual pages. Yep. That's what I assumed. Use app config. Is that created by default? Nope. Use ID. Creates a UUID. Okay. Use lazy async data. Navigation will occur before fetching is complete. Handle pending and error states directly within your component's template. This is what I was thinking would happen earlier. Bella. I'm going to show you my cat because she's so cute. Just laying on my desk. Oh, okay, that's heavy. I'll put you back now. If anyone ever watches these, use lazy fetch. It's probably a wrapper around. Use lazy async, like I mentioned earlier. By default, use wrapper around. Use fetch triggers navigation immediately. By default, use fetch blocks navigation until its async handler has resolved. Oh, wait a sec. Wait, it blocks navigation? So if I click a button that fetches something, and then that's taking a long time, and I decide to navigate to a new page, I have to wait for that to resolve? Is that what it's saying? I mean, that's a very uncomfortable default, in my opinion. I guess that's what use lazy fetch stands for, or is used for. Navigation will occur before fetching is complete. Because posts might start out null, you won't have access to its contents immediately, but you can watch, right? This is somewhat of a learning experience. Use route announcer. composable observes the page title. Oh, excuse me. Updates the announcer message accordingly. What is an announcer message? What? Let's look up announcer message. It doesn't even tell us. Is this some kind of web standard that I'm supposed to know? Let's see if Claude knows. Actually, let's go to Perplexity. In Nuxt, the docs state I should say Nuxt.js. Update. What is the announcer message? Feature used for accessibility purposes. This message is dynamically updated to reflect changes in the page title. Oh, neat. Providing feedback to the screen reader. Oh, cool. So it has to do with accessibility. Nice. Nice, nice. Auto imports. I have to pee. I'll be right back.
Why did you leave it open? Well, now my heart is racing. Thank you. Oh, I was just waking up from a nap.
Yeah. Meow. Meow. Ba 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 ba. Okay, this example demonstrates the auto imports feature in Nuxt. Vue components in the components directory are auto imported and can be used directly in your templates. Vue components in the composables directory are auto imported. Read about them here. So it's saying custom input is auto imported. This guy. Message. Is that an alert? Define props, define emits. Oh, I need to understand those better. Those are a Vue thing. Let's go back to define props. To declare options like props and emits with full type inference support, we can use the define props and define emits APIs, which are automatically available inside the script setup. Define props and define emits are compiler macros, only usable inside script setup. They do not need to be imported and are compiled away when script setup is processed. Define props accepts the same value as props option, while define emits accepts the same value as the emits option. What? I might have to look up a video on this. Define emits update modal value. Oh, that's what this is, right? Saying input, emit, update modal value with event target value. Sure. So in its parent, message. Oh, this is weird. Modal value. Man, I feel like that's hard to trace. Let me open this in its own window. Okay, never mind. Go back. Oh man. Oh, there we go. Fark it. Do-do-do. Blocked? What? Blocked by what? Okay, Chrome. No, where's the preview? Show me preview. Why doesn't it have the preview? It's kind of weird, right? Or maybe because this hasn't started yet. Is that why? I can't place these. Fine. So is model value a convention for passing props? Or can I change this name? Or this is you defining the prop name. So what if you have multiple props? Ay, 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 ay. Layers. What's it got to say about layers? Why? I'm confused. Where is the preview? Why don't you have a preview? Oh, there it is. Okay. So if we change this to like my cool prop, and we say this is called microprop, and this is microprop, and this is microprop. So it didn't. It didn't. Wait, why does it say Nuxt? Model microprop. Refresh. No. So it has to be named that. Dude, what? All right, we're looking up a video. View props. Let's turn off the music.
Passing data from the child component to the parent component is a bit confusing, but I think in this video it will be simpler. To pass data from child to parent, we use something called emit function. Now before going to the code, let's understand the idea of emit function. When a specific event occurs, for example, click event like subscribe button, the child component emits an event like a signal, and the parent component listens to that signal and takes action. Note that the name of the event should be the same for both child and parent. So for best practice,
This, okay, see, that. Wait, this is snake case, and that's camel case. Oh my gosh. The inconsistencies are maddening. There's no way. There's no way. I'm gonna get this job. So, first of all, we know we need script and setup. I have learned that much. Just finish it for me. And we know we need some kind of emit. I think there's a $sign. We give it a name. My thing. And we have a template. Right? Template. And we say button, no, at, click, equals my function. And we need a function called my function. Functino, my function. Now I'm lost, because how do I call it? Click emit my function, my event. So why is it in the other example? I changed examples. What was it? Auto imports? Oh, it's in here. Yeah, this has to be vModel for message. It used to be called model value. That's got to be convention, right? Because we're using this vModel directive. Okay, back to the YouTube.
we use camel case to emit event and kebab case to listen to that event. Now let's answer this question: how does emit function work? As you can see, emit function has two arguments, event name and optional argument, with any data like number, string, array, object, and methods. And actually we have different ways to use it. The first one is inline, in template expressions, which is the easiest way as you can see. The second one is in the options API, inside method section, which can be called using
Methods? Oh, he's not using the setup.
this keyword with $sign. The third one is in the composition API. As you know, set a function or
Oh, that's setup. Oh my god, there's so much I need to learn.
with $sign. The third one is in the composition API. As you know, set a function receives two arguments, props object and context object. So from context object, you can call emit function but without $sign. Well, to this point, it was how to pass data from child to parent component. So what about opposite direction, from parent to child? Here we use something called props. I made a video about this titled How Props Flow Inside the Component. Make sure to check out and since you are here, you probably know what is an object. As you know, the key value pair in JavaScript object is called property. So let's start from this part. Props. Simply, the idea of props depends on passing these properties as HTML attributes, which consist of attribute name and attribute value. So as you can see, the benefit of props is passing data from parent component to child component. Now let's move to Vue.js and answer this question.
This is like the older version, huh? What if we say this here? Vue.js 3 props slot. Man,
Alright, what's going on, everyone? Props are a very common thing that we define on our Vue components. They allow us to pass data from a parent component to a child component. And sometimes we may need to send over a handful of props in the form of an object to a child component. And what I want to show you within this video is my preferred way to handle this in a clean and organized way. Alright, so I went ahead and put together a demo application for this using Nuxt 3. Now, if you are using Vue 3, this will work for you as well. So what we have going on inside this demo is pretty simple. First off, we're just creating a user, which is being set equal to a ref, and then we're typing it with this user type that I imported here at the top of the script tag, and we can see that actual user type being created right here. Now, back inside of the app.vue file, we also have a component called user card, and then inside of this component, it's very simple, very bare bones. We just have the typical Vue file structure, and then since we're going to be using that user type, I went ahead and imported that here. And we also have the define props macro, which is how we'll be defining our props that we want to use within this component. Okay, so let's say, for example, we want to take our user object that we have here, and we want to send it to this user card component. And we can do this through what is called a prop. So typically how you would see this done in most examples that I see when looking at other Vue code is you might create what is called a user prop. So we can say :user, this is going to be the prop that we'll be looking for on this component of user card, and then we'll set this equal to our user object that we have right here. And then here inside of our user card component, we can uncomment our define props macro, and then within here we can just define that user prop, so we'll say user, and then we can type this using our user type that we had imported, so we'll just say user like this, and now we set up a user prop that we can use within our user card component. And then here inside of our template, if we wanted to, we can output some of those prop values, so what we can do inside of this div is say something like user, and then we can do dot, and we should get a nice list of all the available properties that we can use inside of this component, so we'll just say first name like this. Now the problem that I have with this approach, although it's not a wrong way of handling something like this, it's just very granular. And when you're building out components that have props, it's a good idea to be specific in terms of what those props are. And with something like this where we have a user prop that is an entire object, to me that's not very specific. So a approach I like a little bit better is instead of having a prop that is bound to an entire object, is I like to have a prop in my component for each property that lives within that object. So in this example that I have for the demo, the user object has 4 different properties. So what we want to do is create 4 different props here inside of this component. And it'll look something like this. So we'll just start off by doing the ID, and then we can just type this to the user type that we have, and then we can reference a actual property within that type, and we can just do that inside of a bracket, and then we can say ID. And then we're going to want to do this for the remaining 3 properties that we have inside that object. And then we should have something that looks like this, where we now have a prop defined for each one of the properties that live within that user object. And then we no longer need to have this user prop, so we can go ahead and remove that. And we'll also want to remove this reference that we have here to our user prop within our template. Now back here inside of the parent component where we're defining our user card component, we need to make a few updates to make this work. So first off, we no longer have this user prop, so we can go ahead and remove this. Now you might be thinking that since we now have 4 different props here inside of our user card component, that we need to create a corresponding prop here on our user card component that's being defined within the parent. So you might do something like this where you create an ID prop, so we'll say :ID, and then it'll set us equal to our user, and then we can say that ID on there. And then you do the same thing for the first name, the last name, and email, where you create a corresponding prop on this user card component. And then you have something that looks like this. Now this isn't the wrong way to do it, but it's not the most efficient way. So instead of having to define out all these individual properties that are being referenced to this object, we can actually bind the entire object to our user card component. So what we can do is a vbind, and then we can set this equal to our user object. And this essentially is going to be the same exact thing as if we were to define all these different props here on our component individually, but now we can do it in a single line with the vbind. And how I like to think about it is that this vbind is going to destructure this user object that we have, so that way we can use those destructured properties inside of our user card component. And now we can go ahead and remove all these different props that we have here, and we can do the same thing with only one line, which as you can see is a lot more cleaner and efficient. And now here inside of our user card component, it's a lot more clear what exactly this component is doing in regard to the props. So instead of just having a big object here inside of our user card component, we have essentially destructured these into individual props so that way we can see which props are being used throughout this component. And if you were to have more properties on that specific object, you don't have to declare them, you can only declare the ones that you actually want to be using. Alright, so that's going to wrap it up for this video. Hopefully you found it helpful and you were able to learn something new. If you did, be sure to...
Okay. So much magic. This freaking framework has so much magic. Vue props emit with, what was it called here? V model. Let's say model. This is what I just watched.
In this video, we're going to talk about
See what they have to say.
props down to components. So we have this database ref object over here, and you'll see there's a name, department, salary, and there's 3 objects in here. We're going to pass these down to a component called list item as props, and we're going to be able to print these cards right here, and that shows all the information inside each object. And then we're going to be able to delete each item as we want to as well by using emitters, and that's what we're going to do in this project today. So we're now starting off with an empty project, and as always, in the description below, if you want to get started project so you can follow along, I have included instructions there. Let's get started. The first thing we want to do is to create a component and then initialize that component and print it out in our template in this app.view area right here. So this is our main part of the application's app.view, and then we have this components folder which we will put our component in. We already have our component right here called list item. It's currently empty, but let's go ahead and put some information in here, test, and it doesn't show anything yet because we need to register this component into our app.view right here. So let's go ahead and import it. And after we import it, we have to then put this component inside of our template. And let's capitalize this because I like to capitalize my components. There, we have our component showing up right now. And so what this is doing is saying in the app.view area, in main, we want to print out component, and we're printing out this component right here. Now that we have registered a component, we want to pass down a prop to this component so we can pass down some data, print some stuff out in the component. We're just going to hard code that first to see how props work in Vue 3. First, we're going to go ahead and declare the name of the prop, call it name. We're going to say equal, quotation signs, and then we're going to pass a string here for a name. We're going to call the name John. And now we're going to go to list item, and in here, we have to define the prop to let the child know that it's going to receive a prop. In the composition API in Vue 3, we do this by declaring define props, and define props accepts an object. And in this object, we're going to declare the name of the prop, which is name in this case, and we declare more to make it more clear later on. And we have to declare the type of variable, and then we have to declare what type of data we are receiving from the parent. And in this case, we are receiving a string. So now that we have it declared, we can go in here, we're going to say name, colon, and that's just going to print out as name, colon, to our template. And now we want to print out the data.
Okay, wait. The API. Ugh, man. The signature of this function is taking a type? Or are we just passing in the string constructor for the name? Okay, whatever.
Syntax, and we say name, and that's the prop that we received from the parent. And we go ahead and click save, and we see here that we received John from the parent. That's how we pass a prop down to a component. So we're going to head back to app.view, and what we're going to do is we're going to take this first object, and we're going to pass that data into a list item, so we can show all of that as one whole cohesive component, just to show you what we're trying to get, and then we're going to print all the data out afterwards. But first, we're just going to start with one. So we have the name right here, and now we're just going to department. Just say marketing for now. It's salary, and then we want is what we're going to include a position. And let's go ahead and so we got all of that. Let's just make this a little bit easier to read right here. Alright, so now we are passing 4 props down to a list item. We are passing the name, the department, a salary, and a position. So now we are going to hard code this first object right here and pass down that information to our list item. And to do this, we need to be able to declare things like numbers and variables inside of our props right here. And for us to do this, Vue requires us to use a directive called define, and basically you can just include a colon before each of these props. And now we're able to declare variables within these quotations. So we're going to declare the database and the position of this database, which is going to be 0, so this first object right here. And then we're going to ask for the name. And let's just make sure it works. Alright, so you can see Johnny. So we do receive it, and let's go ahead and do the rest for each of the prompts. Department and salary. And position will be changed later, and we'll show you later in the application. But for now, we keep it at 0. So let's go to the list item, and we have to define our prompts here. So we have the department, which is a string, and then we have the salary, which is going to be a number. Now let's go ahead and correct our component here so we can accept all these data types and print out the data the way we went print. So the name is going to be an H2 header. We'll say name, colon, mustache syntax, and we're going to put the name right here. The rest will be p tags. And let's not forget about the position as well because we're accepting a position. And let's go ahead and just put all the separate props and put them right in the template. And this will be department. This will be the salary. And the last part is the position. Alright, so we now have all this printed out. Let's go ahead and check here. We're making a mistake. That's not letting us print out all the information like we want to. Let's go ahead and check why. Okay, you see right here. So we had to refresh this, and then we made a typo. We should be department. Alright, cool. So it's just a typo error. And now we have all this information printing out to our template. And it's all hard-coded. We want to print out these list items as a list from our database. So let's just say we're receiving information from a database. We want it to automatically print out all the employees for us instead of us hard-coding each of these list items like this. So let's get started on that. So what we're going to do is we're going to use another directive from Vue called v4, space clear the for loop. And what we want is the item inside of the array we're going to use, which is this database, because these are an array of objects, and we want each object or the item. And then we're also going to include the index, because we want the index in order to print the position of this object that we're printing out from the database right here in the position. And we'll say item index in database. And so that now gives us access to each item in this database right here as a loop. And instead of hard coding this, we can now say we can get item.name instead of database 0, because we're now looping through all the items. And we can also print out the index right here. Now let's go ahead and save that, and we see right here we just printed out all of these without us having to do anything else like we were doing before. So now we're going to finish this application off by using an emitter. And this emitter is going to allow us to delete each of these singular items from the child component. And how to do that is we have to write a function in our parent component, and it's going to be called delete item. And what that's going to do is type in the position 0, position 1, position 2, and whatever position we receive, it will go ahead and delete that from the database using this delete item function. But we have to be able to call that somehow. And we're going to do that by making a button here inside of list item component, and that button is going to use an emitter. And it's going to say every time we click this button, it's going to emit, and that emit is going to be listened to by this app component, and it will call the delete item function, and we'll pass in the position, and delete one of these items from the database. So let's first start off by creating a button. So right here, I am passing position 1.
Click, emit, delete item.
That will be listened to by the app. Now let's go back to app, and let's just make sure that we are getting this information correctly. Let's call function delete item, and it's going to receive.
Yeah. Ay, ay, ay. That didn't help.
What's up guys, Andre here, and today I want to take a look at a few different ways we can make use of Vue model in your child
Maybe
component.
this one.
So also make sure to take a look at the Find model, which is built into version 3.3 of Vue, which we are using here. So I have a basic form here that's making use of two-way data binding using Vue model. Basic Vue stuff, I have a text input here, Vue model on it right here, and the state being updated is right here. Same with the checkbox. We have a Vue model, newsletter is the name of the state, and as I check it, that should update it, and same with the name here. Now if all your state lives in the same component, then you are good to go. However, if you have any sizable Vue application, you're usually going to extract components, and when you do, the state no longer lives in the same component. So for example, you're probably going to have multiple forms on your application, and if you do, you don't want to repeat this input code, you want to extract it to a component. Now, when you do that, this main state no longer lives in the parent. Let me show you what I mean. Let's first extract this input to a component. So let's grab this, let's make a new component, let's name it input text Vue. Okay, let's make a template here. Let's paste in input code. Okay, let's save this. And we're going to remove the Vue model for now. The goal is eventually to have this back in the child prop. Now let's get rid of it. Let's accept the placeholder as a prop. So let's create a prop, make placeholder, and we'll define that here. Say script, setup, and say const props equals define props, and we'll define the placeholder as a string. Okay. Let's save this and make use of this in the parent. So back to our parent component. Let's comment this out. Let's make use of that new component. So input text. We're going to hit tab here so it imports automatically. We have a placeholder prop, say name, and we want the Vue model to be on here because our state that we want to change is right here. So we'll say Vue model equals name in this case. Okay. Now if I save this, you'll see that the text box does render correctly. However, we've lost reactivity here, so this does not. So how can we bring this reactivity back? So back to our child component. Again, the goal is eventually to use Vue model in here as well. But for now, it's sort of just implementing Vue model ourselves. So it's a bit different depending on the form field, but for input boxes, we find the value, and we have to grab this from the parent. So in this case, we're not passing a prop here. Since we're using Vue model, we actually are. You can actually give the prop a name if you like, and the syntax for that would be Vue model colon name of prop here. But if you don't give it a name, it has a default name, and that default name is model value. So let's look at that. Back to our child.
Model value is the
Prop here,
default
and model value
name.
And how about we say required true? It's a type, right? And required. This model value should have the value of whatever is in the text box, or at least initially whatever in the text box.
Okay. Finally. Model value is the default name. So, if I give it a name here, let's call it John. Then this can be called John. And this can be called John. And then this can be called John. There we go. Now, got it. Took way too long to find that answer. I feel like there's just so many opinionated custom APIs and things about Vue. It almost distracts you from improving your JavaScript and TypeScript skills. But some people could say that about React's like hooks, memoization APIs, and soon to be compiler, which takes away some of that control over memoization, takes away, improves, automates. Yeah, definitely a learning experience.
I had
Let's
this interesting
see
problem the other day when using.
this guy's opinion. on better way to create Vue components.
Define props in Vue 3 with the composition API and TypeScript. And I wanted to walk through with you guys on it and show you kind of what I think is a better way to do props using Vue. I went ahead and created a quick sample app to show this problem to you guys. Essentially, it's a Hello World app. I have a big button that says Hello World. If I look at it, I have this thing called the core button. And inside the core button, I just have some Tailwind classes and just says Hello World. So I thought first I would kind of give you a quick refresher on how props work in case you guys have forgotten. For one thing, you can actually add props onto a button at any time. If you do, the component will inherit those props, and so you don't even need to define them. So in this example, let's say I just wanted to change this class name and change one of these backgrounds to something else. I can simply just put in class and then put background yellow, I don't know, 300, and you can see it automatically changes. And this is a part of how Vue inherits the classes and it actually merges them into the existing classes here. And this is really nice. You don't need to use any tailwind merge. It just automatically works for you. If, for example, let's say you have multiple root elements. Let's say I added a div here that says hi. Well, then you can see it doesn't work. And if you look here, you get a big warning that says that extraneous non-prop attributes class for class component but cannot be automatically inherited because component renders fragments. To get past that, a real quick trick, if you don't know this, you can do vbind here and do $adders. And then there it goes. So you can actually bind the attributes directly onto any element. If, let's say, you have multiple extraneous non-prop attributes class for class inherits the classes and it actually merges them into the existing classes here. And this is really nice. You don't need to use any tailwind merge. It just automatically works for you. If, for example, let's say you have multiple root elements. Let's say I added a div here that says hi. Well, then you can see it doesn't work. And if you look here, you get a big warning that says that extraneous non-prop attribute
What? So if you have what?
class for class component but cannot be automatically inherited because component renders fragments. To get past that, a real
So you can't have another div
quick
that
trick,
says
you
hi?
notice you can do vbind here and do $adders, and then there it goes. So you can actually bind the attributes directly onto any element if, let's say, you have multiple root element nodes on there. There's also something called use adders if you're using Nuxt here, which allows us, or Vue, which allows us to grab the attributes from it. But let's say we actually wanted to pass in a prop into this button. So something probably pretty common in a button is maybe we want to pass in the text for this button. So I'm going to add in some double curly brackets and add in a prop called text. And to add this prop in, I'm going to use define props. And there's a couple of ways to use these define props. Now we're using the composition API, and if you come from the options API, this will probably look familiar, but I see a lot of people do using define props this way. So you can define props here, and then you make an object. And then this object allows you to add in the prop name, in this case called text, and then you can put in like what type it is. Let's say it's type string. Now you can see here that we actually haven't added in this text prop here, and it just doesn't look right. So one thing you can do in this define props is instead of defining it just as the type, you can add some more things to it, and this is what makes it very interesting. In this text prop, now I can add in default, I can add in required, I can add in type, and a validator. So type, I can say, hey, it's type string. I can also have some default text if I wanted to, but let's say we want to make this required true. If I do required true, then I get this big Vue warning that I didn't pass anything in for this missing attribute text, and then my VS Code, which I'm using the Vue language services in as an extension, will give me an error that I haven't submitted the actual text in here. So in that case, I can just put text in, hi, and then it works as you expect. And one really nice thing about this is if you want to, you can actually add in a validator. If you look here, we have this validator. This validator here takes in a value, and then you can do something with it. So let's say we want to return if val.length is greater than 3. And then what I do here is I do type string as well. So this says, okay, it's a value. If it's long, it has to be greater than length 3. And if I do this, you see right away in my console, if I bring this over, I'm getting a big error that invalid prop custom validator check failed for prop text. And it's a warning. So this works okay. Now, you actually don't see any errors in VS Code. If I put in the correct amount of length, I no longer see the warning. VS Code still stays the same. Now, the question I was having, and some other people have asked, is there's a different way to use define props. This works fine, but what if you need to, if you like TypeScript, you want to have it be a more TypeScripty way of doing it. So there is a different way to do define props. And the way you do it is you define props, and then you define inside here, this angle brackets, what the types are. So in this case, it could be like text, type string. And then if I refresh the page here, this is a valid TypeScript type here, this type text. It's also required. So if I delete it from here, you see right away my core button gives me this error that it's not there. If I try to make it, I don't know, a number, let's say I put in 9 here, I also get an error in my VS Code that I passed in a number and it requires a string. This all works as expected. However, if we come back over to the core button here, there were some really nice things we had in define props. We had this required, which we can get, but we also have this validator, and then we have default values as well. And I was trying to think and trying to ask, someone was asking me about this, is like, why would I ever use this TypeScript way of defining props when it kind of takes away a few of these things that you can get with define props using it as an object. It's also worth mentioning that if you do have more complicated objects, you can do something like this and do type object as prop type, and then give it a specific type inside here. Let's say it's a text with text string. So if you have like more complicated objects, you can do something like this. But overall, I really dislike using this define props. I really like using the kind of what I feel is normal TypeScript like this. Now, to get around a few of these things, a few things that you're missing, let's talk about it. So let's take a look at how you would add in default values into here using this define props in this type of pattern. So there's a couple ways you can do it. One is you use something called with defaults. And what you do is you just surround your whole define props with this with defaults, and then you can put values with it. I'm not a huge fan of this. Some people really like it, but in this case, I put like text and put default value here. And this is kind of what it looks like. Like I said, I don't really like adding this extra boilerplate. I think it's a lot. What I like better is inside my Nuxt config, or in my Vue config, if I'm using a Vue app, you can actually turn on this experimental feature called props structure. And I've done this in a few videos. In Nuxt's case, you have to kind of drill down from this Vue, but I have to go to Vue script, props structure. Here in a Vue app, it's just Vue script, props structure. Once you can turn this to true, you can do something like this. So first, since we're assuming we want a default value, this text would not be required. Just like every other TypeScript, I can make it optional by using the question mark. And then I can do const here, and then I can grab the text out of it, and I can have it equal whatever I want. Let's say I want to have it equal high default value here.
Hell yeah.
Then once I save it, let's go back into this index view, and I'm not going to pass this hello in there any longer. You see, I don't have any errors in this VS Code, and it says high default. So now I've been able to destructure this out and add in a default value, which is even better.
There we go.
Now, one thing that covers pretty much our types, requires a required, but what about the validator? So if you look at this example here, and when I showed you earlier, you can do all sorts of validation on it, but all it did was essentially just showed a warning in the console. There's no VS Code plugin or anything to do it. So what you could do is you could just take this text here, and then just check it. If text.length is greater than 3, or I guess it could be less than 3, then you can just do console.warn warning. So let's say we have the same example again, and I'm going to go back into my index view, and I'll put a text here, and I'll just put in hi. You see here now I have this warning in the console that there's a problem, and it still works. Obviously, it's just a warning that you would have to, if you're a developer, you have to be checking your console, but I think most developers are probably trying to make sure there's no warnings in the console before they go to production. I could be wrong in that. I was trying to think though, this is kind of sloppy. I don't really love doing this text.length. Is there a better way of doing this? And that's where I really came across Zod. Zod is really built for form validation, any kind of validation that you want. And it has really nice things like this string validation.
We know Zod for fucking years now.
Maximum length, minimum length.
React world.
You have check your email URLs, UIDs, starts with, end with, IP. So it has a whole bunch of really cool validations that I may actually want to use inside my app. And you can get this working with Vue. So let me show you an example of that. So I went to the Zod website, zod.dev, and I followed the installation tips. And all basically you do is to do npm install Zod, and that will install it on your app. And then I'm going to copy and pasted this in here just to save a little bit of time. But what you can do is now I have a props, and I still do the define props. I make it optional. I guess I can make it required too. Now I can use that to check against the schema that I'm going to create in Zod. In this case, I'm creating an object. In that object, have type text. It has to be a minimum of 3 characters long, and if it's not, it's going to give this warning message of not long enough. And then I can use this prop schema.parse. I pass in that props.text. I could have destructured it here too, but let's assume maybe that experimental feature is off. And then if there's an error, then I send the warning with the error message to the console. So let's see what that looks like. I'm going to save it. If I come back over here, you can see I have that not long enough warning in the console. And the reason you made this is quite a few more lines of code, but I can definitely see taking all the props validation that you want, extracting them into their own utility file, and then sharing them across multiple components in your app. I think this is a lot cleaner way of doing this validation than the way you did it inside this define props here. It's also a lot more powerful. Has a lot more built-in tools to make it easier. So that's definitely what I think. I think this is a pretty powerful feature. I'm really happy with using Zod. And what I'd also do if I was using this in production, anytime I had any forms, I would use Zod for the form validation there too. So I'd use it for props, and I would use it for
Yes, no shit.
Now, if you're got this far in this video, you may be thinking like, why can't you take this prop schema, infer it, and then add it directly into this type here? So we have right here this define props. Can I just pass in this Zod type in here? Well, I tried it, and I could not get it working. There is a Vue.ts, which allows you to add in more complex TypeScript types into your define props, and no matter what I did, I can get it working. If you got it working, leave a message below, a comment, let me know how you got it working. That would be pretty neat.
Ooh, somebody get it working. No. Okay, well, I'm done.